Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. I know this is an old video, guys. It was before even the Trump-Zelensky meeting, but I never watched it live. So I'm gonna do it. Let's go. Trump holds meeting in I'm reading this. Macron interrupts Trump, clarifies how Europe gave money to Ukraine. I don't love saying like, oh, I love blank world leader because, you know, some people might not like it, but I kind of like Macron. Does that upset anyone? I want to know anyone in France or anyone's opinion really. So he just seems what do I know? What do I know? Nothing. Let's learn.
Mr. President, do you think that Ukraine should give up a part of its territory? Mr. President, do you think that Ukraine should give up a part of its territory?
Well, we're going to see. It's a negotiation that's just starting, and you know they've been fighting, and there's been a lot of land that's been taken. So we'll have to see how that works out. That's part of the negotiation. I will say there was great unity in that room today. You know, we were via Skype or whatever, but it was great, tremendous unity today in that room with the other countries. I was very impressed by it.
Territory is back. Can they take it back? What they lost in the past years?
That's not an easy thing to do, is it? Right? It's not an easy, you know, just asking whether or not you can take back the land that they lost. And I say that, yeah, perhaps some of it, yeah, I hope so. But that's not an easy thing to do.
But not everything.
It's going to be something we're talking about.
Will you convince Vladimir Putin to accept the...
So far, not terribly said, right? I think, but oh Jesus, never mind.
It's going to be something we're talking about.
Will you convince Vladimir Putin to accept the European troops as peacekeeper? Will you think?
Yeah, he will accept that.
He will accept.
I've asked him that question.
You talk to him?
I've asked him that question.
What?
Will you convince Vladimir Putin to accept the European troops as peacekeeper? Will you think?
Yeah, he will accept that.
There's no way, and we're being in the future now, or this being in the past, he said no to that, right? So did he just take that out of his ass?
I've asked him that question.
You talk to him?
I've asked him that question.
Is France going to lift the block on the...
Because he's not, look, if we do this deal, he's not looking for more war. He doesn't mind, but I've specifically asked him that question. He has no problem with it.
Is France going to lift the block on the $300 billion in frozen Russian assets in Belgium? France has opposed unfreezing it to pay Ukraine.
I can hear fine the questions, but let me just turn on captions so in case you guys can't hear, especially if your English isn't your first language and it's quiet, you might not get it.
For more war, he doesn't mind, but I've specifically asked him that question. He has no problem with it.
Is France going to lift the block on the $300 billion in frozen Russian assets in Belgium? France has opposed unfreezing it to pay Ukraine and compensate the U.S. for its support. Is France going to lift its opposition to that?
This is, we speak about frozen assets. We already used them to back precisely the loans negotiated at the G7. And it's part of the sanctions, so it will depend on the follow-up of the discussions. But clearly, we respect international law. It's just frozen assets now. You can take the proceeds of the frozen assets, but you cannot take the assets themselves because it's not respecting international law. And we want to respect international law.
How is one different than the other? You can take the proceeds from it. How can you not?
Because it's very different. You keep the assets. You take.
I had the same question just because I'm not great with this. I'm not very, so I'm glad the question is answered. I don't know why I just paused.
It's not respecting international law, and we want to respect international law.
How is one different than the other? You can take the proceeds from it. How can you not?
Because it's very different. You keep the assets. You take the proceeds because they are paralyzed in a certain way. You take the proceeds during the wartime, but you keep the assets, and it's part of the negotiation at the end of the war. Because, I mean, this war costed all of us a lot of money. And this is the responsibility of Russia because the aggressor is Russia. So at the end of the day, this frozen asset should be part of the negotiation, all in all.
Will France support the U.S. being compensated?
I support the idea to have Ukraine first being compensated because they are the one to have lose a lot of their fellow citizens and being destroyed by these attacks. Second, all of those who paid for could be compensated, but not by Ukraine, by Russia, because they were the one to aggress.
Again, just so you understand, Europe is loaning the money to Ukraine. They get their money back.
Oh my God.
No, in fact, to be frank,
Again, just so you understand, Europe is loaning the money to Ukraine. They get their money back.
no, in fact, to be frank, we paid 60% of the total effort, and it was through, like the US, loans, guarantee, grants, and we provided real money. To be clear,
Okay.
we have 230 billion frozen assets in Europe, Russian assets, but this is not as a collateral.
Look at Trump's face. Sorry.
Assets in Europe, Russian assets, but this is not as a collateral of a loan because this is not our belonging. So they are frozen. If at the end of the day in the negotiation we will have with Russia, they're ready to give it to us, super. It will be loan at the end of the day and Russia will have paid for that.
If you
This is my
believe
wish.
that, it's okay with me. But they get their money back, we don't, and now we do. But, you know, that's only...
Did you hear what he just said, Trump?
My
Sure.
boss to do so.
If Russia is going to be the one that pays everybody back, are they the aggressor?
Well, we're negotiating everything, and everything's on the table, and we'll see if we can get some land back, and we'll see about a lot of different things. And we're going to be making a little speech and say a few words in a little while. We're going to have another meeting, a luncheon meeting, and we'll see you in about 2 hours.
He dodged the question. Macron wasn't playing around with his words. They're going to be paid back by Russia, okay? Trump is asked then, are you talking about loans back from Ukraine? Or are you talking about the same thing Macron is in terms of Russia will pay for it? And he just doesn't answer. And I know, guys, it might be a little dumb that I'm reacting to this because this was even before the Trump-Zelensky meeting and before a lot of the stuff that we know that has happened since this meeting. I know, but I still wanted to watch it.
Russia is going to be the one that pays everybody back, are they the aggressor?
Well, we're negotiating everything, and everything's on the table, and we'll see if we can get some land back, and we'll see about a lot of different things. And we're going to be making a little speech and say a few words in a little while. We're going to have another meeting, a luncheon meeting, and we'll see you in about 2 hours. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much.
The video is only halfway over. Oh, are they going to go to CNN? Yeah, they are. I don't really.
A fascinating end to that meeting there in the Oval Office.
I don't care about seeing CNN's reaction. Maybe one part where they show again.
That the U.S. was on a gravy train, in his words, during the Biden administration and has been ripped off, and saying that Europe and European countries have a loan and the U.S. has just been paying assistance to Ukraine. Extraordinary there to see the French President Emmanuel Macron in a friendly way, but it said, to be frank, that is not true.
I love how right from the beginning, just the body language and demeanor of Macron this whole time. He's standing up more straight. I mean, Trump kind of tends to slump, and he's staring right at him. And that beautiful moment
Is loaning the money to Ukraine. They get their money back.
No, in fact, to be frank, we paid 60% of the total effort, and it was through, like the US, loans, guarantee, grants, and we provided real money.
that was very satisfying. Again, guys, I'm not a Democrat, okay? So I'm not just trying to dunk on Trump to be like, ha, Democrats suck, right? But Trump is acting stupid, and it was nice to see Macron catch him in real time. And whether or not you like Macron or not, I know there's something especially very recently in the news around Le Pen and people like her being not something happening with her, and whether or not you like Le Pen or not, I don't know how people in France feel about what's happening there, but I just wanted to go back to this and watch it for myself because I never really did. So it's very interesting. Gotta love Macron, at least here in this interview. And yeah, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. See you guys next time. If I said anything stupid, call me out on it. Say, Connor, you're wrong. You're being dumb here. And whatever. See you guys next time. Bye.